Let's talk about artificial intelligence, AI. And I start with a question. We have the Ecosummit newsletter, and sometimes I get an autoresponder. And sometimes people tell me, can you update your email address, our email address, because you changed your domain to hydrogrid.ai, like many other startups. So we want to find out, Janice, why you did that and why it is important for you.
Well, to be honest, the reason for that is a little bit less fancy than you would think. Our previous domain was hydrogrid.eu, and since we now serve a lot of clients outside the EU, it wasn't fitting anymore, and the .com domain was taken, and the AI domain was next best in line. So in short, it was fitting. I would not have done it other than we wanted to do a domain change anyways. But yeah, it's fitting depending on who you ask. Some people want your product to be AI and some people don't want your product to be AI. So I would also be careful with branding too strongly as AI.
And how important is AI for your startup, Janice?
I would say at this point, so there are a couple of applications that I can think of for Hydrogrid. Thankfully, I don't believe that our product itself is at risk of being replaced by AI in any way because there's just too much deep context information, right? So if you wanted to solve what our product does on a daily basis with AI, the prompt would have to be 8 pages long. So I don't think any client is going to go and try to replicate what we do with AI. I do see some applications in customer support and customer service. There are some things to consider with hiring and recruiting. I think we will touch on that afterwards. And of course, in the way that clients find you. So we recently had the first case where a potential client told us in the first meeting they found us by asking AI, how can I improve the efficiency of my hydropower plant? And that was actually a happy moment, of course, because we hadn't actively checked whether we're findable via AI. But when I think probably even just a few months in the future, this will be the most important criteria for sales. Will no longer be where are you ranked on Google and what's your Google SEO. It will be if somebody types a relevant question into AI, will they find you?
It's called GEO. GEO.
Exactly.
Generative Engine Optimization. We are not talking anymore about search engine optimization. You have to optimize yourself in the eyes, the digital eyes of AI, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Jörg, how important is AI for your startup?
Well, I tell you a story. So when I think it was kind of 3 years ago, we had to create our safety instruction. You know, we are dealing also a lot with electricity and so on. And for the workplace safety, we needed to edit our safety instructions for workplaces. And typically per workplace, it took 2 days for a person to do that on a solid basis. And then we thought, hey, now with the AI stuff, that needs to get somehow different. Yeah? And so we kind of prompted a little bit and then did a little bit polishing. And from 2 days, that went down to 90 minutes. And the interesting thing is, it's really something everyone can experiment. With every task we have, we can take a look at. And now we often think, hey, what does it mean for the product? But at the end, I think we have 4 domains we are looking as a company on AI. It's what is the tooling? Is there now really tooling which can bring down time by using even general purpose AI to do specific tasks? The second is, how does it improve workflows? So you might have one example here, but another workflow where we already use AI is when we get requests by our customers to have a quick check, what is the potential of this customer? We are having an automated process now with AI to give us an early indication just when the request comes in, that person in the company, what's the potential of the company, what's the potential of the person in the company to get that evaluated via AI. So process-wise to look at it. Of course then with respect to products. So we are sitting on tons of data out of the field with all these chargers. The problem there is a lot of customers get to us and say, hey, we have this AI tool in the background, in the back end doing this stuff, but we don't get all our data to the back end because that would be just too expensive communication-wise. So then we have now the challenge, how do we get actually AI down to the field? And there, luckily, we entered now in cooperation with NXP. They, different to NVIDIA, which do that in servers, NXP is now providing their microcontrollers already for in-field AI. That's where we are now, product-wise, for instance, look quite intensively on. And then we are providing platforms for others. So we also always look, what are others now doing, or we can stimulate others doing in business process integration on AI. So these are the 4 domains, and I think all are quite equal important, because it's driving down cost, getting faster to the market, making more out of the value of the data you have in the field, and leverage others to work with AI in their business process integration.
Torben, what is your answer to my question?
How important AI is for us as a startup? It was elemental, and without AI, I wouldn't be sitting on this stage right now. The last, well, yeah, it's as blunt as that in multiple dimensions, right? So we pivoted from being an installer to a software company. I personally pivoted from being a CTO to a CEO. That personal part, with AI, I've had a sparring partner for a lot of questions that opened up in my world all of a sudden. Right?
What does a CEO do?
Yeah, what the hell? And so starting with that, but really also helps me structure, helps me catch up with all the topics. Okay, that's how I personally use it. For us as a startup, I think that it defines 2 different things. It helps us find out what to build. Right, so in the whole building a software, it's really easy. All the AI tools out there, the LLM tools at least, are super helpful to identify what is the essence of customer feedback. Right, when we do customer interviews, it helps you condense that extremely quickly, and then build very rapid prototypes. Right, lovable AI is something that our product managers have started to use to really kind of like, okay, dear customer, we talked about this yesterday. Is this something that you think would work for you, right? It's like a 1-day turnaround time, and showing a working prototype. That's not just a picture. So increasing that, and then after that is actually how we build the software. And with that, that's a whole talk in itself. We can talk about how software engineers use AI tools to make themselves more efficient, 10 times faster, and all that. That's another topic, but we're actually building on top of an agentic framework. That means we are able to implement features without coding, right? We can basically build functionality that our customers are asking for by encapsulating that in prompts and putting that behind buttons. That means we're extremely fast in being able to implement new functionalities, and then when we see that they need more structure or something, then we can still put that into stable code, so to say. Without those 3 things, I think, like, okay, how can I personally cope with all this change for the organization? How can we find out what's the next best thing to build, and how can we really validate that extremely fast? And then being able to actually implement that production-ready, sellable. Without those 3 things, I think we wouldn't be a company that already has, like 3 months after starting to sell something, 120 customers.
So it's really fundamental for your company.
It is elemental. Without that, we wouldn't be speaking.
Michael Wilshire, give us a reality check. And you are a mathematician, and Janice is a mathematician. So out of 5, we have 2 mathematicians. How do you use AI as an investor, as a man who has been at Bloomberg before? You are a very good friend of mine. You are watching, analyzing startups. How do you see AI in the year 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I don't actually use AI directly other than the AI kind of search engines, which I find very useful actually for researching companies. And it's not just ChatGPT, but there are others that give you source information. So I'm an advisor to a startup called Sightline Climate that's a market intelligence platform. And for that, AI is very useful just at that level, but increasingly we're looking at ways of incorporating AI into the actual operations, because it's very heavily data-driven. So there are those aspects. I mean, going back to the maths, I did study applied maths and statistics way back. And actually, the elements of AI were around then. I mean, it's quite interesting. It's been a very long story. Actually, backpropagation, which was the sort of first major innovation, I think, or one of them, was in 1986. You know, that sort of kicked off neural networks in earnest. So I also look at it in terms of, you know, what's the potential for AI in terms of creating new businesses as well as being incorporated into existing businesses. And we're seeing, for example, if you look at materials discovery, drug discovery, not my area, but materials discovery, I think is very similar. AI is a really powerful tool for finding new structures, new molecules that can be very valuable in terms of materials. And a lot of innovation in clean tech is around that. So you see it in that aspect, but also I look at companies to see are they making best use of it, whether it's in that kind of operation or whether it's in their core operations, you know, which is everything from CRM to, you know, it could be predictive maintenance if you're an operations business. It could be optimization if you're trying to manage a very decentralized network. If we're thinking about the energy network that's evolving, you know, how do you make sense of all of that without AI? It's very difficult. So I think it's got enormous potential. And then there are areas like robotics, which I think you know, is kind of the next wave of AI. A lot of it's been around tokens, which are essentially words in most cases, or you know, words in software programs, for example. But I think the reinforcement learning, I mean, it's around already, but I think we're going to see a new wave of innovation around that, and much more automation as a result.
Feel free to jump in and comment, and imagine there wouldn't be a moderator sitting here.
Then I'll maybe add a point about IP and confidentiality, right? So I think we underestimate still to which extent this is going to change how we do business, because the concept of confidentiality as it exists today, I think in practice is going to go away, right? So let's think of a practical example. A client does a tender or a request for a proposal. He gets offers from 5 companies. We're in the B2B enterprise space. All of this is, you know, non-public pricing. I find it very likely that some person working for that client organization will then take 100 pages of RFP documents from 5 suppliers, chuck them into an AI and say, give me a summary, compare this, make me a table. Now that previously confidential information from all of these suppliers is fed into the AI. So I think the time where you're able to keep things confidential to some degree is coming to an end.
The AI is everywhere.
The AI is everywhere. So you will be able to find your own confidential pricing, etc. information in the AI, as well as your competitors' confidential pricing information, etc.
And did something happen in your company actually while you bring up this point? Or?
Nothing has happened so far. We have been internally until now very restrictive with what we put into AI for this exact reason. So basically no secret sauce, nothing confidential, and I trust that the team members are actually doing that. But no matter how much you trust or you have such policies, at some point somebody, again, it doesn't even have to be within your own organization, it's going to end up there. So I think you have to adjust from a commercial perspective to take that into account. With regards to IP, this is always a tricky thing. As soon as you use any kind of AI assistance in coding, I know the different options have different flavors, what's in the fine print. Yeah? Again, do you want to use AI to fine-tune your secret sauce algorithms? Kind of no. So this is why we currently do not use it yet. However, we are evaluating different coding assistants, Cursor, Copilot, Claude for coding. We also evaluated whether our coding example that we give to candidates can be done easily with AI, right? So for recruiting, every software developer who joins the company has to do a coding example. This was done at home. So if
your future employees using AI too.
Exactly, but...
And you don't know how good they really are.
Yes.
You have to test it in real time.
That's what we do, which is why we have always done whiteboard coding to like double validate that. And we actually tested our coding example recently, and thankfully or unthankfully, the AI didn't do a very good job. So we consciously chose an example where the AI actually...
You outsmarted the AI.
For now, again, and we
Okay.
will have to retest this. Yeah? So, in short, the value of any kind of task that is given at home study in recruiting, you have to look very closely if this is AI-able, and if that's what you want. You may also want to hire somebody who is very smart at using AI, in which case, more power to you. My general rule is, if you could do what the AI does from scratch in coding, then you are qualified to use it. Under no circumstances should a person who could not write the code from scratch use AI to write the code from scratch. Bad things will happen. That's my
I think,
opinion.
though, that's a lot of what's happening, actually, because in software, I mean, NVIDIA, for example, I mean, they're not doing software, well, they are doing software, but they're also doing chip design. And they see it as augmenting and not replacing their chip designers. So they're saying, I think it's a sort of factor of 4 to 1. You know, they made their chip designers 4 times as productive.
Yeah.
So it's not just replacing jobs,
No.
it's actually augmenting.
Making the person who could do it better.
Yes.
Yeah.
It probably also depends on the technical intricacies of what you're actually building, right? In our case, we're building applications mostly. We're not building deep tech algorithms where it's really about the ingenuity of a human being still being superior to AI. For everything, almost everything else, and it'll go into that direction as well. I found it extremely liberating accepting also AI to be used even for interview tests, because that's what we'll be doing every single day, right? That's what I expect. I'm not Toby Lütke, so I didn't like put the manifest out like everybody was like everything in AI only, but similar to that, right? I expect every single engineer to leverage AI as much as possible in the company, and I had discussions with some engineers who were exactly on the same, had the same questions, right? But we have to know all the fundamentals. Yes, but then apply it, right? It'll make you so much faster than that. And another colleague, an engineer, was then saying, well, just imagine 100 years ago, I don't know, it's probably a bit longer, but imagine cars are invented, right? Do you still need to teach people to ride horses? Or do you actually just have to teach them to drive the car? And I found that a pretty good comparison. So I think for us as a company, we're not building deep algorithmic code that is totally ingenuic on that side. We're building applications. For us, it's like, yeah, like show us how amazing you can use AI to get a result for a customer. So I think it really depends on what you're actually working on.
For those applications, I 100% agree. Yeah.
But I mean, now taking the points and looking forward, what we see ahead to focus on, and I think you made the point on the legal side, and it's really there we need now to see how we learn the new environment, right? Also on the legal side. So we say there are frameworks out there. Of course, now everyone is using ChatGPT and so on, and there needs then to be framework out there and say when it's confidential information, only these models can be used which are not learning based on this one, but which are used to, you know, in a silo in the company to still result in the results we want to have, but it's not based on that learning, so it's not leaking out there. So I think there's a way, if you're aware of it, what you just stated, then to do the next step and say, what is in the framework for that one? So I'm not so pessimistic to say, hey, this will, you know, everything will now get in common public as part of the speech models and so on. I think it's just that we need to find new tools to frame it again so that it complies what we want to have. And that's just, you know, a new product then. And similar then, if you use AI today, we know it's not 100% perfect, right? We always need to, you know, to adapt it to make it work. And I think that's exactly the interesting. So there's a strength of AI because it has this huge, let's say, basis of hidden information. Yeah, working in pattern recognition in the past, we always had models. Now we have really this kind of learning framework. We don't know deterministic anymore to understand it. So it gets us to 80% very fast. But the rest of the 20% is, as you said, it's a different discipline. To really get a fast overview as a human being, so what is, you know, solid there, what needs work? And this is just, again, I would say it's different mean how to work with the tools. And I have my daughter is now in computer science, and it's exactly what they are learning now at university. They learn how to deal with the AI and very fast to have a judgment, is this something I can use or was it the wrong prompt? And so it's just a different mean how to interact. And there I would focus on also in hiring to say, do I see this already experienced? Because that's the speed advantage. If they still only look at the details but not at the whole picture using these tools, they will not have an appropriate way how to deal with them.
But the AI really has gotten better, right? Recently.
Much
I think
better.
a lot better, right? So let's talk about the quality of AI, because that is where we are going to. I mean, the big companies, especially in United States of America, that are developing these big AIs, they're putting everything that they have to make it smarter, 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 better, better. But it has really changed a lot during the last, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 years.
Last year.
Within the last
I think
year.
it's always worth remembering. I mean, you said it's not deterministic. It's always worth remembering, actually, AI is fundamentally about prediction. And the costs of prediction have come down enormously. The way ChatGPT works in very broad terms is it predicts the next word. I mean, it predicts the next token. There's a context window, stream of text predicts the next thing. So it's not deterministic. And that's why you get things like hallucination. Some of the innovations to your question, Jan, have been around things like chain of thought. So instead of just having one prediction, you have the algorithm going down multiple chains of thought and then working out, well, I've got this set of potential answers, which one is the most plausible. Again, it's predictive, but it's a better form of prediction. So that's, I think, been one of the fundamental innovations of the last year or so. And obviously, ChatGPT, the innovation there was around having essentially context windows and the ability. I mean, it started off with a paper produced by Google called Attention is All You Need. And it was basically saying, as you predict the next word, you need to work out how it might be related to other words in the sequence or other tokens in the sequence. So it's been around for a long time, since 1986, or actually 1951, when something called the SNARK, which was a one-neuron piece of kit, was invented. But it's been the acceleration in computing power over the last few years, in particular GPUs, that's enabled this.
Yeah. I think context window is an important factor as a user also to bear in mind when you compare different AI forms, right? These differ significantly. Yeah? So ChatGPT has this huge context window where information from 2 months before may be used for your answer today, has the downside of more hallucination and not citing sources in all cases. Perplexity, for example, has a very comparatively small context window, but always cites sources and has much less the problem of hallucination. So for instance, if I'm trying to replace a Google search, or what I would have previously done with a Google search, Perplexity is a great tool because I've not had any issues actually with hallucination and being confidently wrong. Yeah.
And I think also you need to avoid hallucination, but also have explainability.
Yes.
You know, how did you get to the answer?
Exactly.
Why?
And the second thing that I notice has changed significantly even in the last 6 to 9 months is the ability to proactively give me information I didn't ask for. So this really positively surprised me with my use over the last couple of months. This has changed, right? In the sense that I ask question A, I get an answer to question A, and I proactively get answer to question B, which I did not ask, but which I probably should have asked. So basically moving from...
The AI always wants to talk to you. It's very time-consuming. No. They already have an idea on what you should be asking next.
Exactly.
I do agree.
And it's really now at the level where I'm getting the same answer, let's say, that I would get from a tax advisor. Yeah. Saying, oh, you asked about this, but actually you should also worry about this, this, and this. And that is, I have to say, some high-level stuff, and professions like tax advisory, accounting, and various other things in that field, the inflection point where AI is going to really be able to provide equal or better service is not very far in the future.
My wife is actually a tax lawyer.
Oh, sorry. How does she feel about this? No, I'm curious.
Well, actually, she gets some clients coming to her and saying, "We found this on ChatGPT. Yeah. Is it right?" And often it's not.
Okay.
And the reason is completeness. To be accurate on tax law,
Yeah.
it's no good being 99% right. You have to be 100%
Correct.
right.
That's why I use Perplexity.
Well,
Okay.
maybe they're not using
Yeah.
complexity.
Let's end this panel with one important question and advice for the founders in the room and on YouTube. You are a founder of a startup company in the year 2025, and AI plays an important role. What do you recommend to the other founders that are not yet as plugged in to AI as you are? How much should they budget for it? How much should they embrace it? How important will it be for the future of your startup and the future of all the other startups out there?
So first of all, I would honestly, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give myself like a 2 out of 10 of expertise, right? So there are other people who know much more about this topic.
Okay.
I would say budget some time, right? So I don't think AI is this huge budget factor necessarily in money, it also, but I would say proactively budget a certain amount of time each week, each month perhaps, to think about exactly those questions that have been mentioned. Which parts of my business could I potentially enhance with AI? And then testing out options. If the answer is none, then move on and do the things as you.
Then you're lucky.
No, then there's no judgment here. I would say, just as with any other kind of process, your job as a CEO, at least that's how I see it, is every month I ask myself, what's the biggest issue in the business right now, and what can I do to fix it? And I will keep doing that exact same process every month. Only that now in the what can I do to fix it category, there is one more tool in the toolbox. No more, no less. So that would be my answer.
Okay, wow. Jörg, what do you think?
I think to follow up on that one, to really encourage the employees in the company to really get, you said it as a time budget, but to really think in these 4 dimensions, tools, workflow, product, what our customers are doing, to spend what is meaningful there, and then to characterize also the value for in time saving, or what you can, value up in what we are doing. And that's, I think, quite fundamental, because it's so going in so many different disciplines that everyone in the company has probably a different view angle what this means, either for what they are doing or what they are creating.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. I think with not using AI is not an option anymore. How to budget it is really difficult to say. I quote again Toby Lütke of Shopify, who basically said, like, before you hire somebody new, how can you solve this with AI? I think that taking that question, ingraining it into all of your decisions, how can I solve this with AI? And only then call the tax your wife, right? To validate. Asking that every single day, and then you'll automatically find the value of it. I think the pricing is going to go super crazy going forward. You already see it with Salesforce, who are starting to charge for their AI agents based on FTE savings, based on headcount cost, right? So an agent there will cost you easily $6,000, because that's what salary would cost, right? So I think we're gonna see a lot of change in what we will be paying. Right? I'm a bit afraid of that, because I have my co-founder as AI with me all the time, so I'm gonna have to start paying that guy.
I agree about prioritization. I think that's important. But sort of taking a step back, I think that AI will be fundamental to enterprises of most sizes. And will apply to most operations. So I think it's then a question of, in some cases, it's absolutely core to the business. It's fundamental. So if you're using it to discover something new, a material, say, then you probably have to use AI. But equally, if it's part of your operations, if it's supply chain management or CRM, it's a bit more optional, but I think it would be unwise not to look at it and what the opportunities are to improve costs and operational efficiency. And also, as I mentioned earlier, to augment what people are doing. I think it's not just a cost reduction it's not just about, saving a lot of jobs. I think it's about augmenting a lot of jobs and moving even faster than you could without AI. So I think it's actually a real opportunity.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking you to send me an email with all your ideas about AI. I want you to talk about AI today in your meetings and find out from all the other people in this conference how they use AI, why it is important, and how we can use it in a smarter way. Clearly, it is changing the way we are working, the way we are building startups, and maybe the way we are investing. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.